The sizzle of sausages on the grill had become the soundtrack of my life. Steam rose from my modest hot dog cart on the corner of 5th and Madison, curling into the crisp autumn air like the dreams I'd once had, visible for a moment, then gone. My hands, weathered and scarred from years of honest work, moved with practiced efficiency as I served the lunch crowd. Office workers, construction guys, students. They all knew my cart, knew my smile, knew that I'd give them extra onions if they asked nicely. What they didn't know was that the man flipping hot dogs had once worn $1,000 suits. "Dad, what the hell are you doing?" I looked up from the grill to see my son Marcus standing there, his face twisted in disgust. 28 years old, wearing a designer jacket I knew cost more than I made in a month. His friends flanked him, young men in their prime, all sharp haircuts and expensive cologne, their laughter dying as they took in the scene. "Working, son," I said quietly, wiping my hands on my apron. "Just working." "Working?" Marcus's voice rose, attracting attention from passers-by. "This is humiliating. Do you know who just saw you? Sarah Mitchell from my firm. She asked if that was my father selling hot dogs on the street corner like some." "Like some what, Marcus?" I met his eyes steadily. "Like some honest man making an honest living." His friends snickered and Marcus's face flushed. "You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing yourself. After everything I've achieved, everything I've become, and my father is out here," he gestured at my cart with contempt, "slinging street food." The words stung more than he knew. But I'd learned long ago that dignity wasn't about what others thought. It was about what you knew in your heart. "I'm not ashamed of this work," I said. "Well, you should be." Marcus turned to his friends. "Come on, let's get real food, somewhere that doesn't smell like failure." I watched them walk away, my son's laughter carrying back to me on the wind. A customer approached, saw my face, and asked if I was okay. I nodded, forced a smile, and made him the best hot dog he'd ever tasted. Because that's what I did. I showed up. I did the work. I kept going. What Marcus didn't know, what he'd never bothered to ask, was why I was there. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, please subscribe to the channel Silent Revenge Story, share this video, and press the bell icon so you never miss a story. The journey to that street corner had begun 3 years earlier, in a boardroom with windows overlooking the city I'd helped build. I'd been Richard Thompson, CEO of Thompson Industries, a manufacturing company I'd grown from a small workshop into a multi-million-dollar enterprise over 30 years. I had the office, the house, the respect. Marcus had gone to the best schools, worn the best clothes, never wanted for anything. His mother, my late wife Alina, had passed 5 years before from cancer, and I'd thrown myself into work to deal with the grief. I'd provided for my son the only way I knew how, with success, with money, with the fruits of my labor. But success can make you blind. I hadn't seen the betrayal coming. My CFO, David Chen, had been with me for 15 years. I'd trusted him completely, considered him a friend. While I focused on production and clients, David had been systematically embezzling funds, cooking the books, setting up shell companies. By the time the FBI came knocking, Thompson Industries was drowning in debt and legal troubles. The courts froze everything. Investigations dragged on for months. Even though I was eventually cleared of wrongdoing, the company was gone. Creditors took the house, the cars, the savings. Everything Alina and I had built, everything I'd planned to leave Marcus, gone. I was 57 years old and starting over from zero. Marcus had been furious, not at the situation, not at David Chen who'd betrayed us, but at me. "How could you let this happen?" he'd shouted during one of our last real conversations. "How could you be so stupid, so careless? Do you know what this does to my reputation? People know you're my father." "I'm sorry, son," I'd said, the words hollow in my empty apartment. "I'm sorry for all of it, but we'll rebuild. Together we can." "Together?" Marcus had laughed bitterly. "I've worked too hard to be dragged down by your failure. I'm making junior partner next year. I have a future. I can't be associated with this. And just like that, my son had cut me off. No visits, no calls, no support, just silence and apparently shame. So I did what I knew how to do. I worked. I took whatever jobs I could find: warehouse work, delivery, driving, construction. I saved every penny, sleeping in a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. And when I saw that hot dog cart for sale, something clicked. It was honest work, good work. I could be my own boss again, even if my office was now a street corner and my employees were just me. The first day I opened that cart, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: pride. Not the pride of corporate success or financial statements, but the simple pride of making something with your own hands and seeing people enjoy it. Every hot dog I served was perfect. Every customer got a smile. I learned names, remembered orders, became part of the neighborhood's fabric. I was happy, truly happy. But I hadn't expected to see Marcus, and I certainly hadn't expected his contempt. 3 days after Marcus's cruel words, I was at my cart as usual, serving the lunch rush. The weather had turned cold and business was brisk. I was in my element, joking with regulars, when I heard the engines. 3 black Cadillac Escalades, the kind that whisper money and power, pulled up to the curb. They stopped traffic, commanding attention like something out of a movie. People on the sidewalk paused, phones came out, and I felt my heart skip a beat. The doors opened and men in suits emerged, but these weren't just any men. I recognized them immediately, even though it had been 3 years. "Richard Thompson," said the first man, extending his hand. "It's been too long." James Morrison, CEO of Morrison Tech, one of the largest technology firms on the East Coast. I'd done business with him years ago, supplied components for his manufacturing division. Behind him emerged 2 more faces from my past: Patricia Williams, who'd built a real estate empire, and Carlos Rodriguez, whose restaurant chain had gone national. "James," I managed, shaking his hand, acutely aware of my apron, my modest cart, the difference between us. "Patricia, Carlos, what are you doing here?" "We heard through the grapevine that you were back in business," Patricia said, her smile warm. "Had to come see for ourselves." A crowd was gathering now, people with cameras out, clearly wondering who these powerful people were and why they'd stopped at a hot dog cart. Back in business might be overselling it, I said, gesturing at my setup with a self-deprecating laugh. "But it's honest work." "The best kind," Carlos said firmly. "Richard, do you remember when I was starting my first restaurant? When the banks had all turned me down, told me I was too risky, that my concept wouldn't work?" I did remember. Carlos had come to me desperate, needing equipment he couldn't afford. I'd extended him credit when no one else would, told him to pay me when he could. It had taken him 3 years, but he'd paid back every penny with interest, and never forgotten. "You gave me a chance when no one else would," Carlos continued. "You said you believed in hard work and good character more than credit scores. You changed my life." "I'd heard rumors about what happened to Thompson Industries," James said, his voice carrying across the gathering crowd. "The embezzlement, the investigation. We all knew it wasn't your fault, Richard. David Chen played everyone. But we also heard you'd disappeared, and no one seemed to know where you'd gone." "I've been here," I said simply, "rebuilding, one hot dog at a time." Patricia stepped forward. "Richard, do you remember the Thompson Foundation? The scholarship program you funded for underprivileged kids interested in manufacturing and engineering?" I nodded. That had been Elena's idea, a way to give back, to create opportunities for kids who had the talent but not the resources. We'd shut it down when the company collapsed. "One of those scholarship recipients was my nephew," Patricia said. "He's now a lead engineer at Williams Properties. Another is running manufacturing operations for Morrison Tech. You funded 23 scholarships over 15 years, Richard. Do you know what happened to those 23 people?" I shook my head, emotion tightening my throat. They became engineers, designers, entrepreneurs. They're changing the world, and not one of them has forgotten where they came from or who gave them their chance. James pulled out his phone and showed me something, a group chat with dozens of names. The Thompson Scholars, we call ourselves. When we heard you were working this cart, we had to do something. We don't need charity, I started, but Carlos cut me off. This isn't charity, Richard. It's gratitude. It's respect. It's recognition that a man's worth isn't measured by his current circumstances, but by his character, his integrity, and what he's built, both in business and in people's lives. Patricia pulled out an envelope. We've formed an investment group, 20 of your former scholarship recipients plus the 3 of us. We want to restart Thompson Industries with you at the helm. This is our offer. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. The number inside made my knees weak. I can't. You can and you will, James said firmly. Because we need more people like you in business. People who remember that success isn't just about profit, it's about people. You taught us that, Richard. Now let us return the favor. The crowd around us had grown to over 100 people, everyone filming, everyone watching this impossible moment unfold. And then, pushing through the crowd, I saw him. Marcus. My son stood there, his face pale, his expensive jacket suddenly looking cheap in the presence of real wealth, real power, real respect. His mouth opened and closed, no words coming out as he took in the scene, the Cadillacs, the CEOs, the envelope in my hands. Marcus, I said quietly, I'd like you to meet some old friends. Your son? Patricia asked, her voice carefully neutral. I believe we met at a charity gala last year. You're at Whitmore and Associates, correct? Marcus nodded numbly. Did your father ever tell you about the Thompson Foundation? She asked. About the lives he changed, the futures he built? No, he never. That's because real generosity doesn't advertise itself, Carlos said. Your father is one of the most respected men in our industry, not for his money, though he earned plenty honestly, but for his character. When he fell, we all felt it, and when we heard he was working this cart, he gestured at my modest setup. That just proved what we already knew. Richard Thompson doesn't quit. He doesn't whine. He just puts his head down and does the work. James turned to Marcus. Your father once told me that a man is defined not by how high he climbs, but by how he treats people on the way up and how he handles the fall. I'd say he's passed that test with flying colors. The silence stretched out, broken only by the clicking of cameras and the murmur of the crowd. Marcus's eyes met mine, and I saw something crack in his expression: shame, regret, recognition. I need to tell you something, son, I said quietly, aware that hundreds were listening but needing to say it anyway. When everything fell apart, when I lost the company and the house and everything we'd built, I thought I'd lost myself too. I thought my worth was tied up in my title, my bank account, my success. I gestured at my cart. But this taught me something. It taught me that dignity isn't something others give you, it's something you carry inside. Every hot dog I make it the best I can. Every customer I treat with respect. Not because I'm trying to prove anything, but because that's who I am. That's who your mother raised me to be. My voice broke slightly at the mention of Alina. Your mother used to say that the measure of a man isn't what he does when people are watching, it's what he does when he thinks no one cares. Well, I've spent 3 years thinking no one cared. And you know what? I found out I cared. I cared about doing good work. I cared about being honest. I cared about getting up every day and being someone I could respect. I took a step toward Marcus. You said I embarrassed you, and maybe I do. Maybe having a father who sells hot dogs doesn't fit your image of success. But son, I need you to understand something. I will never be ashamed of honest work, and I will never apologize for having the courage to start over. Tears were streaming down Marcus's face now, his carefully constructed composure completely shattered. I'm sorry, he whispered. Dad, I'm so sorry. I was so angry about losing everything, about what it meant for me, that I never stopped to think about what you lost. Your company, your life's work, Mom's legacy. I know, I said softly, and I forgive you, but Marcus, you need to understand I didn't lose everything. I lost money. I lost stuff. But I kept the only things that really matter: my integrity, my work ethic, my humanity. Those are things that can never be taken from you unless you give them away. James cleared his throat. Richard, we need an answer about our proposal. 23 former scholars plus our investment group are ready to back you. Are you ready to rebuild Thompson Industries? I looked at my cart, at the grill where I'd found unexpected peace. Then I looked at the faces around me, people who believed in me, who saw value in me even at my lowest point. And finally, I looked at my son, seeing perhaps for the first time the man he was becoming and the man he could still be. On one condition, I said. The new Thompson Industries focuses on more than profit. We create jobs, we mentor young people, we invest in communities. We do business the right way, treating people with dignity regardless of their title or position. And we never, ever forget that every person, from the CEO to the janitor to the guy selling hot dogs, deserves respect. Done, Patricia said immediately. We wouldn't have it any other way. Carlos stepped forward. And Richard, keep the cart. Maybe work it on weekends, because sometimes the best reminder of who we are is remembering where we've been. The crowd erupted in applause, phones capturing every moment. In the coming days, the video would go viral. CEO honor hot dog vendor, spawning articles about redemption, dignity, and the true meaning of success. But in that moment, all I cared about was my son stepping forward, tears still wet on his cheeks, and pulling me into a fierce embrace. I'm proud of you, Dad, he whispered. I'm so proud of you, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. 6 months later, Thompson Industries 2 opened its doors with Marcus as my VP of operations. He'd quit his law firm, shocking his colleagues, to join the family business. The company was different now, built on the principles I'd rediscovered behind that cart: dignity, respect, hard work, and the understanding that success without humanity is just a fancy word for emptiness. Every Saturday, weather permitting, I still work my cart on 5th and Madison. Marcus joins me sometimes, and we serve hot dogs together, father and son, rebuilding not just a business but a relationship. The Thompson Scholars Fund is bigger than ever, and every recipient knows they're not just getting money. They're joining a family that believes in second chances, hard work, and the dignity of all honest labor. People often ask me about that day, about the moment the Cadillacs pulled up. They want to know if it felt like vindication, like revenge against my son's mockery. But it wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. The recognition that a man's worth isn't determined by his bank account or his title or even his son's opinion. It's determined by his character, his choices, and his willingness to do the right thing even when no one's watching. That hot dog cart taught me more about success than 30 years in a corner office ever did. It taught me that dignity is something you carry, not something others grant you. It taught me that there's honor in all honest work. And it taught me that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. As I flip burgers on my cart, now a choice, not a necessity, I sometimes think about that moment when Marcus stood there in shame while powerful people praised his father, the hot dog vendor. But what I remember most isn't his embarrassment. It's the moment he let go of his pride and rediscovered his heart. Because in the end, that was the real success story. Not the rebuilt company or the money or the recognition. It was getting my son back, not the arrogant young lawyer who valued image over integrity, but the man who learned that true success is measured by who you are when everything is stripped away, and who you choose to become when you're given the chance to rebuild.